forgot what I was gonna say. Welcome back to my channel. It is day 13 of Camp NaNoWriMo, and very rainy, very gray outside. So yesterday I wrote the scene where Noah and the Demon Lord talk again, and it's getting interesting because Noah's beginning to feel more comfortable with teasing, because in her researching scene, she found out that he's a cherubim, and since he won't tell her his name, she gives him the nickname of Cherub, and he hates it, especially when she explains that there's a lot of art of cherubim as babies. I don't know how much I'll write today. I'm hoping to get through a little further. I'm hoping that we'll get to the point where we can meet other angels today, because I just feel like it just will add that extra layer of conflict that'll really get things going. The fun part is going to be their names, because all of the supernatural people in this story have wacky names. I don't have any off the top of my head to share with you right now, mainly because I haven't decided who is getting what name. I just have a list of names that I would believe, if I read it somewhere, it belonged to an angel or a demon, either way. An example I can give is one of the demons towards the beginning of the story. His name is Reeve. Her name is a lot like what you would typically see in a fantasy or science fiction book, where somebody was like, I'm just gonna throw some letters together and be done with it. However, that was originally what I was planning on doing, but I found out a few days into NaNoWriMo that Reeve is an actual word. I thought it was interesting that Google Docs wasn't underlining it and saying it was wrong or misspelled or something else. So I looked it up, and apparently it means to plunder, which I guess kind of works. Like, she's not like a plundering demon or a thief. She's sadistic and demon-like, but I just thought it was interesting that her name ended up meaning something negative. So I put a lot of thought into my character names, partially because I actually really enjoy having names mean something. So usually in a first draft, the names will be like how I intended Reeve's name to be, just a mishmash of words, just placeholders. Like in my note cards you saw from yesterday's video, I wrote Noah's name as MC for main character. Her name now actually has meaning. I have a couple of rules for myself when it comes to naming characters. One, I never name a character the same name as somebody I know. I hate that. Like, I don't know, it's just like, I think I did it once and I used just a very generic name, and there were a couple of kids at school, because I was in like middle school at the time, who had the same name, and my friend asked me, oh, is that so-and-so? So since then, I've taken like extra care of not naming my characters like that, and if it is the same name, I try to make sure it's spelled differently. So for the life of me, I will probably never have a Megan character. I know a lot of Megans, and they all spell their name differently. Also, when I come up with a name for a character, I don't like to have the same first initial for big presence characters. Like, there's a secondary character whose name starts with N in my story, because Noah is the main character. I just find it gets confusing for me. Especially in my notes, I'll shorthand Noah's name as NK, because it's her initials. It's just a personal preference. When I get to like very minor characters, I struggle a little bit with being like, I'm gonna name you a boring name or a common name, or you're all gonna have a name that starts with the letter H. It's just the only story I can think of where I had two characters whose first names began with the same letter and they were both big characters, one of the characters is never called by her first name. This is in my cosmic horror novella, where the main character's name is Felix, and there's a side character named Felicity, but her last name is Kaufman, and she's always called Kaufman. So in that case, it works. The third thing about names that I like to keep in mind is, what does name mean? Because I do like the idea of having names mean something very specific when it comes to my writing. I don't want to give a character a name and then have it mean something like Rocky Hillside, or I don't know. So Noah's name is very specific. It's actually a biblical character. And then the demon lord's name is Latin for a specific word. Currently, a lot of the angels and demons on the side have like those mishmashy, fantastical names that you can never hope to pronounce. However, I'm going to, further along in my process, probably change them so that they have some sort of meaning, or different parts of the mishmash mean things that have to do with either the character or the story. So yeah, that's my rant about names. Because, well, one of the important plot points that I wrote last night was the demon lord has never shared his name with Noah at this point, 250 pages into the story, and he doesn't know her name. They literally call each other angel and demon, and it's beginning to get on Noah's nerves a little bit. One other thing that I keep in mind when I'm coming up with names for my characters is, how does the name fit the story? Like, beyond just the meaning of the name, but the origin of the name. So, for example, I have another story that I'm in the process of planning. It's very early stages of planning, and if I can get to the end of Capturing Heaven sometime this summer, like at least done with the first draft, then I want to move quite a bit of my attention towards focusing on really fleshing out what this new story is going to be. For example, though, this story is based primarily in Irish and Scottish folklore. So, like, when I was coming up with a little bit of the early details, and I decided I was going, like, when my brain landed, yes, Irish, Scottish, folklore, fairy tales, all of that. As soon as my brain latched onto that, I decided I needed to have typical Irish, Scottish names. They don't have to be common ones. They don't have to be easy to pronounce ones. I decided, and I'll talk more about this idea that I have later on, but the point is, the names need to match the story, and if the names don't match the story, things will seem disjointed. If a name doesn't match the story, it ruins the immersion. Like, if a name is too basic, it ruins the immersion. Basic is subjective. So what is common for me might not be common for you. There are some names I will never name my characters because they were common names at my school. But my characters might end up with a common name from when you grew up. Where you grew up. That's what I meant. Okay, for example, when I say the name Noah, my main character, a lot of people think Noah from Noah's Ark. I have a cousin named Noah. I have a cousin named Nova. They get confusing. I know multiple people from when I was in middle through college school named Noah. However, her name is Noah, N-O-A. So it is a different spelling, It's a different biblical character, and it has a different meaning. It sounds the same, but it's not the same. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to naming, I take into consideration people I know, the commonality of names, what the first initial is, and what the name means. So, those are really what I think of when I come up with these. Okay. See you in a few. It's the end of the day update. I wrote 1,300 words. I did want to say that it feels, at least to me, that I'm not on track with word count anyway for Camp NaNoWriMo, considering the par normal NaNoWriMo is about 1,600 a day. But I had a few thousand before I started that's like included in my goal. I just really wanted to see if I could get to 100,000. And I am actually all set. Like, even if I stopped writing today and then picked up and did 1,600 words a day later in the month, I wouldn't have to write until April 23rd. So on days when I write a little bit less, I feel okay. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that. It's weird. Today's song is Can't Help Falling in Love by Tommy Prophet. I think I said Timothy yesterday. It's actually Tommy featuring Brooke, and it's a dark version, so it's not as happy and nice as like the original Elvis. It just fits really nice with the tone of my story. So I didn't get to meet any angels today in my writing. However, I am about two note cards away. So maybe tomorrow we'll meet an angel, and I will give you their name, because it's not like a big spoilery thing to know them. So I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.